Hi, everybody. Okay, so I'm just kind of poking around. This is the first time I'm using the live streaming feature through Patreon. And so this is really, really cool. So what it is you can go live for free through YouTube. And so you just set it up, and I couldn't actually find out how to do it on my phone. I was going to do it while sitting on the couch sipping some coffee, but that's fine. You have to do it through desktop. And so I set it all up through desktop. It has this fancy stream feature in the posting sections. So that's how I set this up in case you were curious how that worked. And it looks like as I'm refreshing, it looks like it's currently live in the posts. So if that is something you're interested in, there you go. And it's got a moderation section here on the side. It's very cool, very, very cool. So this being the first live through Patreon, I want to say hi, Ian. I know you couldn't be here today, but as my first patron, I want to say a great big thank you. I really appreciate the support as I start this experiment with Wattpad. And I really appreciate all the comments and feedback and support you've been giving me as my chapters are released. So really can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it. Very, very grateful for your support. And so with that, I thought I would pull up some of the comments and questions that have been coming through lately. It's very early on a Saturday for me anyway. It is 7:59 a.m. Hawaii time. And on a Saturday, that's a little earlier than I'm usually up, but I really enjoy having the house to myself, a quiet place, especially because my daughters will be arriving soon, and then we will be a house of 7. And so it can be quite quite a rambunctious day around here usually. All right, so let me see. Let me get into my story, looking at MotherBot, and I'm going to look at all of the questions and notifications and things. All right, so let's start down at the bottom. All right, so it looks like we're getting some views here. Oh, if you can hear the music in the background, I'm sorry. I live on a military base, and so it's 8 a.m. just now, and they're playing the 8 a.m. music. Let's see. I see people are enjoying the book. I really appreciate that. I'm very glad for it. And looking through. Thank you also, Ian, for signing up for my newsletter. There's going to be some exciting things going on with that as well. Patreon is going to get the exclusives, so character bios, maps, and different kinds of artwork. Of course, these Q&A videos. I have ideas for audio readings. So if that's something that interests you, let me know. I really love to read my book out loud. So I thought that could be a fun way to interact here in the community as well. If there's anything else that you think of that you like about different authors and what they share for their Patreon, or things that you are just interested in, let me know. I am really playing with this to see what works for me, what works for the community and everybody who joins it. And so I'm willing to experiment with anything and everything here, and your feedback is greatly appreciated. Let's see. I did see old in the way a monument is old. So this was one of my favorite sentences here. In chapter 1, Waking Steel, this was the paragraph that I wrote. The woman was old in the way a monument got old after the horrifying event it was built for had been forgotten. Graying and cracked all over, her distinct features were rubbed away so that you almost couldn't tell what had been there before. But I'd seen her in her heyday, and my memory filled in the gaps. Her hair had always been white, but the sheen of youth had dulled. She had always been thin, but instead of the childish invincibility I remembered, she now gave off a frail air of breakability. And so you really liked that sentence. I really liked writing that, envisioning Inanna as an old woman versus how she is young, trying not to give away any spoilers here. You'll read more about the before and after, the jumps in time as you go through the book. But she's a very interesting character, Inanna, and I will leave it at that for now. As we get more into the book, there will be twists and turns along the way, and then I can share more of my true feelings on all of that. So thank you for the feedback on that. All right. What else? What else have we got here? Okay. So yes, I do leave the questions at the end of each chapter as a way to kind of engage and spark some conversation. So let me see. Oh, it didn't pull up that comment. Okay. Hawk lost a child at some point. Yes, she did. Maybe a kid has something, maybe the kid has something to do with that, how that happened, how she got her robot body. A lot must have happened in that year. A lot did happen in that missing year. So again, there will be some back and forth in time. There's actually 3 layers of time in this story that will eventually merge into a single timeline where questions are answered and we get a full picture of what actually happened throughout the story. This was a really fun way to write, just because it reflects how my brain works, I think, in that it's constantly jumping back and forth. I have a very hard time writing chronologically. So being able to jump back and forth depending on where my mind was at the time was a lot of fun, and it helped me get through the book a lot more easily. So as I wrote through, we do see Hawk losing a child. She's not the only one. And we see the impact that that has had on her and the others in the story, and what happened. There's a lot of guilt. You'll see symptoms of PTSD, which I have experienced, and being a member of the military, knowing people who have PTSD and the symptoms that come with that. So I wrote that in because as a mother of 4, the loss of a child is, incomprehensible. The pain, the grief, the anguish that must be there for people who truly have lost children, I can't imagine. And so this was my way of trying to show that, and of trying to do it honor and justice, and give a little bit in terms of my heart to people who have experienced that. In addition to her being a soldier out there, this is an apocalyptic wasteland, and so soldiers go through tough stuff. And so it is normal and natural for her to have PTSD for a lot of different reasons, the loss of a child being just one of them. Kid has something to do with it. Maybe not what you think, but definitely something to do with it. And something did happen. Obviously, she went from being cybernetic to being almost a complete robot. There are elements of her humanity that remain. So yes, a lot did happen in that single year. And I am very curious to hear what you think as you go through the story and find out all the things that did happen. All right, so the next one, chapter 5, deals in deception. See, we really great character work in this chapter. Thank you. Had originally imagined Vern as a sci-fi James Bond type, but this version fits his down and dirty world better. Shades of Han Solo, maybe. And to answer the question, no way in hell I take that deal, although the fact that he would try to set those terms makes me wonder where he's at in the friendship. So let me go down to the question for this one. Would you take Vern's deal knowing what's at stake or find another way to save Taro? And so if you've read through the chapter, which Ian, I know you have, Vern and Hawk have some bad blood between them. They've been through a lot together, and because of her PTSD symptoms, she's no longer as reliable in the field whenever she gets those attacks. And so, again, reflective of true symptoms of someone in PTSD who is then forced to remain in a bad situation that caused it. Yeah, Vern is definitely not a James Bond type, but he is kind of scrappy and he's funny. I really enjoyed writing Vern because he's got a lot of personality. He has a lot to say. He was a lot of fun to write. He does have elements of Han Solo. He's very snarky, and he says what's on his mind. He's kind of a grizzled old man, but still very capable. He's still got a lot of skills and energy and vitality left in him. And we see him just fed up with Hawk at this point. He's tried to be a good friend, and she continues to put herself and others in bad situations that she knows are going to be affected by her mental health. So that's putting herself and others at risk, putting him at risk. And at this point, he's just fed up with her. And so we see that in the choice he gives her, the ultimatum he gives her, this being the last job he's going to help her with, and not for her, but for Taro. So it is fun to see how that then plays out through the rest of the story, and how and what changes as the elements unfold. Let's see, in chapter 2, he says, back to answering questions, experiments. So, okay, you have here, they are either to test new treatments on subjects that they don't care about, or study how the outsiders survive in the outside. Yep. As for the trap, I would think Hawk putting a bullet between the dude's eyes kind of solved that problem, didn't it? Well, interesting that you should say that. Let's see. Down to the question. This is a long chapter, scrolling all the way through. How do you think the attendant meant, or what do you think the attendant meant by experiments, and how will Hawk and Vern escape this trap? So this is interesting because the attendant's experiments will become very clear what he meant by that as the story unfolds. And we think that Hawk and Vern are out of this trap because, yes, she put a bullet between the eyes of the attendant. But there is a lot more to this story that we will find out. And I'm not giving anything else away at this point because I'm very, very proud of how that unfolded. And I am very eager to hear what everyone thinks as they read through it. So let's see. This being the holiday season, as we get through, I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Blessed Yule, however you are celebrating this holiday season. I want to wish you happy holidays and thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your holiday season to read through MotherBot if you got a chance to read through it. And as new members join Patreon, I want to say again a big thank you. And I look forward to giving you a lot of new and interesting stuff. I'm very excited to participate in this community. This is not the first time I've had a Patreon, not the first time I've been on Wattpad, but this is the first time I have had a very clear plan and a finished product that I am releasing throughout the course of this experiment. So MotherBot is complete. The first book is anyways. And I have big plans for how I'm releasing it. First and foremost is chapter by chapter on Wattpad and Patreon. And I today will be finishing and releasing some special extras into the Patreon as well that are key to the book. And what I mean by that is when I am finished releasing every chapter on Wattpad and Patreon, I will then bundle this into 3 separate novellas, which will then become a packaged book, not a single book. What am I thinking? A box set, a packaged box set of novellas that I'm selling on Amazon. But in the published novellas, these extras will be part of the book because they are pivotal to the plot and to understanding what happens at the end. So it is very exciting for me to be able to release these on Patreon only, because that means that there are Patreon members who will have details of the book and insight into what's going on and how this will end that members on Wattpad don't have. And I went back and forth about how I wanted to do this. And the story does stand alone. It does make sense without these extras on Wattpad, but it's not as rich in detail. And for those diehard sci-fi fans out there who really like to know the ins and outs of the technology, this is something you want to see. This is the ins and outs of the technology that tells you how things ended, how it's very hard to talk about this without giving out spoilers. That tells you exactly how it could end this way whenever we get to the end of the book. And so right away at the very beginning of the novellas, you have these pieces of information, but you don't know how they are going to relate to the story until you get to the end. And that was my goal, was to kind of breadcrumb the technology and the plot elements together throughout the story, so that by the time you get to the end, you finally have all of the breadcrumbs, a complete picture, and you can go, oh, I understand now. I know how that works, and I know how this all came together, because I really love stories that do that. And so I hope that it comes across the same way. I plan on doing these live streams for Patreon every Saturday at 8 a.m. If that doesn't work for you, I would love to hear it. As I'm able to, I can try to adjust my schedule. I work full-time in the military, and again, I've got a very big family. We're a house of 7, starting after the new year. So there's a lot going on. Oh, my kitty has come to say hello. Would you like to meet Socks? She's whining at the door. Come on, Socks. Come inside. Okay. This is Socks. Can you hear her purring? She's very noisy. Hi. Maybe not. She wants to be put down. Okay. Bye, Socks. She's my little helper. She will jump into my lap while I'm writing sometimes and just purr away, which makes it both harder and easier to write sometimes. But yes, if there are other times and days that work better, please let me know, and I will try to adjust my schedule. I can't promise anything, but I will try. And of course, as you have questions, put them in the chat here on Patreon, add them to Wattpad, send me a message, and if you're on the newsletter, send me an email, and I will add it to the list of things I want to talk about and answer. I want to make sure that you get the answers that you have, or to the questions that you have. So, all right. I know Ian was at work today, and I want to just say one more thank you to Ian for being my first patron. And I look forward to there being a big group of people, and so we can have nice long discussions on this. So hope you have a great day at work, Ian, and I will see you next weekend on another live if you're able to make it. If not, send me your questions and I will answer them then. Otherwise, thank you, and I'll see you soon. All right, bye.